Hello everyone, we're back again with the Track Limits podcast team. We've got Phil and myself in the booth here to talk some F1 for you. Interesting times in the F1 paddock. Teams are releasing their cars, getting ready for testing sessions. Still waiting to have the break of day from Renault and Alfa Romeo. Stay tuned, you don't want to miss it.
It's my favourite time of year. I love it. Around Valentine's Day, when Valentine's Day for Formula One fans is not Valentine's Day, it's when the new cars come out. So,
boy, have you got some interesting cars, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about the Haas. We talked about the Haas livery. I'm not sure whether when they released the car the first time, that was just the livery.
That was just a livery launch,
wasn't it?
There were some interesting things about it. I mean, a lot of it looked even more like a Ferrari this time. So it may have actually been their own private, image release, and then the car would have broken daylight on track this week, I believe.
Yeah. So we talked about the Haas. It's your favourite, I believe.
It's my favourite so far after seeing all the other ones come out. Some of the liveries look really, really cool in images and at the launch, but then seeing them on track, I'm getting mixed opinions about them just from the livery point of view. Yeah.
Well, we'll talk liveries first then. Let's start with Ferrari. It's red again.
It's red again. I think that's a given.
I think it was new, wasn't it, last season, this sort of Mission Winnow matte red finish.
I quite like the matte red, actually.
I do.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people don't like it.
Matte kind of satin kind of finish, yeah.
Yeah, it's nice. It's a good looking livery.
It is a good looking livery. I like that the side of the car from a livery point of view. It's a bit busier now with the MW logo and the Ray-Ban across the side. It kind of bodes back to the traditional Marlboro, across the fin, across the intake.
There's some issues with that, isn't there? I think it's against the law in Italy for brands to have anything to do with tobacco, and then the Mission Winnow is a sort of sub-brand of a tobacco company, and there's threats that someone's going to come and seize the the SF1000 from Ferrari.
Another political thingy going on
down
around
Maranello.
Yeah, never ceases to amaze us, Ferrari team.
No, they don't. Right, so
next on the list, Red
Bull.
It's got a bull on the side. It's got some red and some yellow and some blue.
Standard Bull, really.
Looks pretty much like a carbon copy from whenever.
Yeah, I'm just a little bit upset that they didn't give us something different this year, because they usually give us a little teaser or a little test
livery or something.
Camo. I remember the first season I watched Formula One in 2015, was when they released the black and white camouflage.
Oh yeah, the black and white camouflage with Danny Rick.
Yeah,
that was interesting, actually.
I thought it was brilliant. And
even with the camouflage, you knew what it was saying, but you couldn't really tell. I mean, yeah, camouflage, but it was really funky, and right at the time when the beginning of the hybrid era, it kind of needed some funkiness back on the paddock.
It reminded me of, I don't know if you've ever seen those road cars being tested, and they drive these new road cars that haven't been released yet to the public. They drive them down the road and they have these stupid black and white lines.
Black and white lines and circles and triangles and stuff on it, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was interesting. I quite liked, was it the blue and black one from 2 years ago?
I think that was 2017.
2018, I think.
18.
Yeah. I quite like that one. That was, I mean, blue is my favorite color, but it was bold. And it's like, okay, Red Bull saying, hey, we've kind of fallen behind a bit in the hybrid era, but, not for long, kind of thing. So I enjoyed that livery.
Definitely. On to Mercedes then.
Mercedes,
it's very similar, except someone's spilt some red wine on it.
Right at the top of the engine.
I like it.
I do. Yeah, I do.
I think previously the Mercedes was always a little bit dull, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We had a return every year of the silver,
with slightly different shade of blue,
tinge of greeny blue.
Well, greeny blue, a slightly bit of black in it, and
definitely. And then last year they came in with the
new front end for Hockenheim, wasn't it?
That was nice. I like that. That was a one-off, wasn't it, for their
anniversary?
Yeah, was it 50?
50, I think so.
Some years. some number of years. But they introduced for the whole season. They introduced this new black at the back of the car, merging into silver at the front with these stars.
The stars.
Obviously, they've still got that one star now for Niki
One star
Lauda.
for Niki.
And I think that was a really nice change, and I'm glad they've kept hold of it because it was a good-looking car, and I think they've just added a little bit of
a little bit, yeah. It's the subtle things that make the difference, and the red on the inside of the end planes for the front wing, but still keeping the outside black. So it's still traditional, but as the car is passing, you get these flashes of red. And it's like, oh, that's quite cool. And the red are on the top. I know it's with the Ineos logo, but I can't help but think of Niki when I look at that because it's right above the helmet. So I think whoever designed that car knew what they were doing.
Yeah, definitely. Right then, what are we on to?
We're on to Alpha Tauri.
I've heard it's Alpha Tauri, but you're not going to get me saying that. It's Alpha Tauri.
Alpha Tauri, the really, really cool one. Let's face it, man, that is a sexy looking car.
It is. It's a very good looking car. I saw images of it and I was so pleased. So pleased that they don't really look like a junior Red Bull team anymore. They've kind of gone their own way. It's not blue.
It is a really nice touch. And even the suits for the team, for the drivers this year from Alpha Tauri. That's so funny to say. But yeah, that's a very sexy looking car, and although it's really just two colours, a really darkish blue, probably quite similar blue to the Red Bull livery, and just matte white, it just fits so well with the shape of the car, and it just flows really, really well.
Yeah,
I love it. Yeah.
It's filth.
You're a filth.
Moving on, Racing Point.
Racing Point. Well, it's pink again,
I think it's the best looking of the pink cars that they've done.
The first pink car, the one before the Halo, with Perez and Ocon. Oh, God, I love Ocon. That was a very faded, like a kind of pink. And then it got brighter and brighter. And then last year it had a really shiny, over-the-top finish to it.
I thought it was a little bit busy last year because they had BWT, didn't they? And they had Sport Pacer, and they had this blue, this pink, this white. And it was just a bit much.
Let's just be glad that there's no British Racing Green mixed with pink, because I think that with the Aston Martin, part of Lawrence Stroll, that's I'm glad to see that it's kept its pink with BWT title sponsorship. It looks really good.
It does. It's a good looking car. I'm looking forward to seeing it on track. Now on to arguably my favourite. I think.
Your favourite?
The Williams.
Of the ones released so far?
Yes, because I'm looking forward to Alfa Romeo.
Alfa Romeo. Yeah.
Not Alfa Tauri.
Not Alfa Tauri.
The Alfa... No.
No, not the Alfa. The Williams.
The Williams. The Williams...
Williams Rocket. Yes.
I can't decide whether it's really, really stylish or it's been drawn by a child. But either way... I still love it.
It's subtle, but it's what you expect a racing car to look like.
Yeah, and I like this mix of blue and red.
It's traditional, but it's traditional, but it's really, really nice. It kind of reminds me a bit from the side with the red and white. It reminds me a bit of the Marussia from the beginning of the hybrid era.
Yeah, the 2014.
Yeah, the one that Jules Bianchi drove.
Yeah.
That, it kind of looks like that from like the certain angles at the back and the rear corners.
Yeah.
And then the blue on the front still, with Williams blue and white kind of thing.
Yeah.
Of the glory days. I think it's a nice livery.
I do like it. Hopefully it's a good car.
Hopefully it's a good car. Yeah.
Right. I keep saying right.
Right.
I should stop. Alfa Romeo. It hasn't been released, but we've seen a picture of it on track in its traditional Valentine's Day camouflage livery.
The snake skin.
We've had a teaser with tinges of red and tinges of white, haven't we?
And tinges of nice try as well.
Yeah,
I think that was very well played, Alfa Romeo.
Absolutely.
Very well played.
The last couple of seasons have produced a truly stunning Alfa Romeo livery. It's definitely been the standout car on the grid for me.
It has.
That really dark red and the white.
Shiny dark red as well, yeah. Very, very shiny.
I'd like it back.
I'd like it back, yeah.
I think it would look very good next to the Alpha Tauri.
Well, yeah, we're looking forward to that. When is that due to be released? That is going to be released
tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow morning,
because today is the 18th, and tomorrow is the 19th when the first preseason test at Barcelona kicks off. So we shall see
everyone on track,
all of the cars on track. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Williams,
all the drivers on track as well. Williams, we're rooting for you. You've wowed us with delivery. You got to uphold your end of the bargain. You're going to make it to testing and do all the days.
Well, interesting you should say that, because I think if anyone's going to do a Williams, it's going to be Renault this year, because at their pre-season launch, they didn't have anything to launch.
Yeah, I think that was, well, in my personal opinion, I think that's poor taste.
It's bad, isn't it? I mean,
it doesn't even look anything like the leaked pictures as well, isn't it? It's just black.
No, we've had renders, haven't we?
We've had renders.
Some internet renders.
One with Ocon's helmet, and one with Ricciardo's helmet, and then one without a driver in the car. But I think I don't know what to expect. I'd like to think that, for one, the car looks nice. I'd like to see more yellow in it, as opposed to just black carbon fiber and stuff like that. The car isn't busy enough as a livery. And I'd like to see them fighting a bit closer for the midfield battle as well. It's
got a lot of potential, hasn't it? We've kind of said that the last few seasons, the mixture of yellow and black's got really good potential to be a really nice looking livery. And Renault, much like they have been on track recently, have tended to let us down a little bit. They've promised big things, and their livery colours promise big things to me. Black and yellow, you can do a lot with it. And it just keep being disappointed really by Renault. Cyril Arbitable, their team boss, has said that their current car was actually in bits, and he's then gone on to tell us that other teams are presenting fake cars at their livery launches, which if you want to make a statement like that, then you have to present a real car at a livery launch. Exactly. I think
it's just that simple. Yeah,
absolutely. McLaren.
This is a touchy subject for you, isn't it?
It's a touchy. No, I mean, I'm not a big McLaren fan. I like the fact that they're a British brand. They're a great racing team. They've produced some great drivers, and they have a massive fan base. I don't want to upset anyone, but it doesn't look finished.
No, I will agree with you there.
It just looks like they forgot to save the last bits they've done.
Yep.
And they've brought up
if you had to do a bit of a pan from the front of the car, from a side-on view, you pan from the front going towards the back, and it's like, yeah, and then you get to just behind the driver cockpit, and it's just a mass of orange in the middle, isn't it?
Yeah, it's there's nothing there. They need a title sponsor. It's crying out for a big sponsor, isn't it? That gap.
Yeah, it's. I know. I think if they had kept the triangles on the back, it would have filled the space nicely.
Definitely. I think they've taken a step back in livery. I hope they've taken a step forward in terms of the car
in development, because putting livery aside, there's some very, very, very new bits. It looks like the entire chassis is completely new, and it looks promising, but looks can be deceiving.
Absolutely.
So let's hope that McLaren continue on their run of form from last year with the bros, Carlos and Lando, Milk Machine, and the Spanish invasion.
Chile? Does it call itself Chile?
I think it's Chile, yeah.
Yeah, it's Chile, isn't it? Right. Chili and milk.
Chili and milk.
Complement each other, don't they?
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's...
On to the design features then.
Features.
We've got notes on 4. I thought we've got a lot to talk about.
We'll just
stick to 4 cars.
Stick to 4 cars for this episode.
Carrying on with the McLaren then.
Standout ones.
We'll go with the McLaren.
Let's go straight to McLaren. You've already got it pulled up here on screen. So, Phil, take it away.
Just a precursor here. I have a very basic understanding of how a Formula 1 car works. I'm going to be relying on you and your engineering background to come in with some actual know-how. McLaren, last year, massive step forward, following a very, very difficult period. Obviously, the Honda being blamed, I think, for perhaps something that wasn't entirely Honda's fault.
Yep.
I don't know how you feel about that.
I would agree with you there. From people that I've spoken to in and around motorsport and stuff, the For one, the packaging is wrong. As the entire cockpit is carbon fiber, engines are stressed members, just like they are on motorcycles. And if you design a certain package to be loaded in a particular way, and bear in mind, Honda and McLaren, they have to work at two different sides of the world, right? So there's not much, although you would expect there to be communication between them, clearly there wasn't. So all the loadings and stuff was just stressing the car just from the dynamics of the chassis itself. And, just basically kept blowing the engine up. When they made the switch to Renault, with Alonso, with the first of the papaya colours, they were making strides in engine performance and top speed and stuff like that, but their chassis then was wrong. So they kind of fixed too many things and they didn't know, in essence, what things worked and what things didn't. So now they've got the engine, and as last year you've seen, they've got the driver package, the driver combo, and last year they had the chassis. So let's hope that this year they can bring it all together. There's some really interesting features. I mean, that rear wing on the McLaren is the busiest looking rear wing on the paddock.
Yeah, they've got some really key members as well moving forward, haven't they? They'll try and keep hold of that driver lineup for many years. Many years.
And I think, didn't Carlos say he doesn't really have any intentions of going to the big three? Like he's very content where he is.
I don't know. I've not heard that, but I can imagine that he likes McLaren, doesn't he? You can tell
he feels at home.
He wants to bring it back to its former glory. Mm-hmm. Lando Norris, he's gone through the McLaren process a little bit like Lewis Hamilton. So he's your modern day Lewis Hamilton that's going to bring them back to their glory days, hopefully. And they've got James Key at the helm.
Yep, that's
on the technical front. So he's quite a big name.
And one of his biggest promises is he's claiming his aims are to iron out some of the weaknesses. And from last year, to be honest, they didn't really have many weaknesses.
They were just unlucky, bit inconsistent, wasn't it?
A bit inconsistent
in terms of sometimes it would qualify best of the rest, and then next week they'd be struggling to get into the top 10. Sometimes, usually in the top 10 comfortably, but a couple of weekends where it just wasn't there. I think they're aiming to iron out those weaknesses. However, it's not a massive redesign.
No, considering where they were last year and how they've come from before last year. So I think McLaren are on their way back to potentially being one of the greats again. They need some to start living up to their heritage.
Definitely. Another team that need to start living up to their heritage, and we talked about them previously this episode. Yep. I'm a big fan of their livery, Williams. They have to have a good season. Last season was their worst season ever.
Yep.
1 point.
1 point.
1 point with Robert Kubica.
Robert Kubica, not even George Russell.
No. So the fact that, a class driver like George Russell, who consistently outperformed Robert Kubica, hasn't even been able to get one single point throughout 21 races, says it all for Williams. They've got to improve. It's not a redesign. That 2020 car that Williams are going to bring is not a redesign. And I don't know if that's worrying or not, because it was 1.5 seconds off the pace.
Yep.
They had a lot of problems with the downforce, and the car just wouldn't behave how it was designed to behave. That's what Claire Williams and the gang have said that they're working on, is to iron out and remove those problems experienced last season with the downforce. But it's going to have to be a huge improvement. It's
going to have to be massive improvement. And considering even in the days of Massa and Bottas, still in the hybrid era, but before their massive decline, Williams are known for having low aero packages, and even in the speed traps last year, they weren't even up in the speed trap, even if they were running a low downforce aero package. So it just shows that they've got a lot of work to cover, and hopefully they've closed the gap, even if they're still at the back of the grid. You don't want that, but they need to close the gap to the rest of the grid if they want to, stand in for a shout of getting a couple of 10th places this year. It's sad to say, but Williams need to hit the ground running again.
Definitely. Right, onto the Ferrari. And I'm going to start by talking about the Red Bull. Now, the Red Bull is
traditionally
run with a very high rake.
Now, for some of you listening who are new to motorsport and F1, you want to know what rake is. Picture a vehicle on its side. Well, from not on its side.
That's not gone well.
No, that's not gone well. From a side-on view, the front of the car is significantly lower than the back of the car. In essence, the car has a very nose-down or pitch-down stance, in essence. That is defined as rake for you F1 gearheads out there.
Is that positive rake? It's high positive rake,
Yeah.
isn't it? Because negative rake is when the nose is up. And I don't imagine that would go very well.
No, not in a circuit racing car or an F1 car.
You get air going underneath and taking off.
That's more in things like WRC, which is... Yeah, you need a lot of rake, negative rake and stuff like that on gravel. But we'll come to that in another episode.
Definitely. So the high rake is something that Red Bull have been renowned for over recent seasons. Definitely noticeable on track when you can sort of almost see underneath the Red Bull compared to a lot of the other cars. You can physically see the difference in height between the back of the Red Bull and the back of some of the cars on the track. And Ferrari, from what we can see, the released image, it looks to have adopted some of that
rake
high
effect.
rake effect that we can see on the Red Bull. So how's that going to help, Dom? What do you think?
Well, adding more rake or having a more nose down kind of dynamic to a vehicle, it improves the turning. So if you go back to Sebastian Vettel in his Red Bull days compared to Lewis Hamilton at McLaren, Vettel liked to have a very positive front end. He likes to have the car underneath him from the front, whereas Lewis kind of prefers to have a car that's a bit looser. And you can see that with their driving style. And Red Bull have kind of not built a car around Vettel at the time, but with Adrian Newey at the wheel, aerodynamic whiz, and all the suspension and chassis dynamics gurus and skunkworks at the Red Bull team, they created a package with a high rake that just works. And you can agree with me that it works phenomenally. So Ferrari have opted for that. We know that they've got the straight line speed. They were able to perform in some of the high speed sections, but they're just losing out a bit on the front end.
Struggled a bit with the downforce as well, didn't they? So I've done some research. My limited physics knowledge and understanding, I've found that the bigger the gap under the car, so when you've got high positive rake and the back of the car, there's a larger gap between the back of the car and the front of the car. The air is pushed under the low front end, and then there's a special kind of word to do with wind that I cannot remember for the life of me. I think it's something to do with a vortex.
Yep, that's the one.
You get some vortexes.
Vortices.
Yeah. Vortices underneath, and it
very well done.
It helps. A Venturi. That's
effect.
It. You get a Venturi effect when the air speeds up and that changes the pressure.
It's the expanding air coming out from the back of the car being at a higher right height to the front. Then that gives, in effect, what people think is downforce is air pushing the car down, but it's actually air hitting the car from behind, pushing it along.
Yeah, it's a suction, isn't it?
Yeah, and that is... And that is what Ferrari are going for this year. The front end in that car is busy, man. The bars, boards and stuff on the side, the car is busy.
I'm really looking forward to it.
I really am.
Just being at the front all the time.
And I quite like that shape, the round shape of the top of the engine cover.
I've just realised. I've just seen that. It's very intricate.
It's very traditional to the Alain Prost first season at Ferrari. That year, that Ferrari had a very, very round and a high intake cover. And they had that last year, but it's even nicer this year. And I think, it's from a looks point of view, it's amazing. But yeah, they've definitely done their homework.
I'm very much looking forward to Ferrari.
Looking forward to seeing that.
Come on, Ferrari.
Come on, Ferrari, yeah.
There was one more. AlphaTauri. I'm going to go with Tauri. It's easy to say, yeah.
Okay.
AlphaTauri is their AT1. That's what they're going for now.
AT01, yeah.
Sorry. The AT01.
AT01.
We're going to go
technical,
is based on the RB15, the 2019 Red Bull car. There's a lot of parts that are on that AlphaTauri that are straight out of the parts bin at Red Bull, shall we say. And I'm wondering, will that help to propel them up the grid? AlphaTauri are looking for a top 5 finish in the Constructors' Championship. That's their target.
I think it's doable, but we need to see how the car performs in testing and then after Albert Park. But from the first time I saw it, after I kind of cleaned the drool and slobber off my mouth from the livery, I kind of helped but notice, that's very Red Bull-like, isn't it? Yeah.
With the step down at the top of the nose.
The step down on the nose, but they've got some new unique bits on it as well. There's a shot from the rear end of the car. The rear end of the car is not quite as busy as, say, the McLaren, but there's some big dive fins and stuff on the diffuser, and the rear wing just looks, it's subtle. Not many cutouts compared to other teams, but it just looks smoother. Yeah, us even as enthusiasts and very die-hard fans of F1, we still don't have access to the waveforms coming off of all these wings from CFD data and stuff like that. So all we can do is sit here and speculate from what these wing elements and stuff look like. But if it's anything to go off of what it looks like, it should be quick, but we got to wait and see.
Definitely. Well, I think what we'll do is we'll move on from new cars. We're going to talk a little bit about the testing.
Yeah.
Big headline, I suppose, or the big change with testing is now that teams have got 2 fewer days of preseason testing. So just 6 days to try out their cars at the Circuit de Catalunya, which is in Barcelona, which is the same venue that we have for the Spanish Grand Prix. So that's around
5 or 6.
It's going to be earlier though, due to the cancellation of the Chinese Grand Prix this year, which has been postponed due to the outbreak of coronavirus. So that's going to be even earlier. No, it's not. They're probably going to keep it the same, but it's going to be the 4th race and not the 5th race.
Probably, yeah.
Anyway.
Things to watch out for. Well, for one, I don't think they'll be getting any record numbers of laps over the entire season. Well, sorry, over the entire preseason testing.
No, I would,
because of the 2 fewer days.
Thought so, yeah.
But it could be that because of that, they could just be trying to go for longer laps for engine reliability.
Definitely.
So we've got to wait and see.
I've got 3 things written down here.
3 key points. Yeah.
What we're going to maybe look out for at the preseason testing. The first one is sandbagging. Now, to explain sandbagging to those of you who haven't heard the term before, what teams do is they'll turn up at the preseason test, and some teams will have a rapid car. You think back to 2014 Mercedes-Benz.
They showed up
second clear.
And they just blitzed everyone, and then they just dulled it back.
Absolutely. And what these teams will do is they'll try and hide their true pace from other teams. The way they can do this is by adding extra fuel in. So if they're going to do a qualifying simulation, you usually would send out the car with enough fuel to do an out lap, a flying lap, and an in lap.
Or maybe 2 flying laps, depending on tyres.
And what you can do is you can just fill the car up with fuel. Those cars will take 100 kilograms of fuel, or 105 they start the race with, isn't it? 105 kilograms. 10 kilograms of fuel can have an effect of up to 0.3 seconds per lap time.
Per lap.
So if you just stick in 40 kilograms of fuel, your car looks like it's a second slower than it should be. So why they do it, I'm not entirely sure. I think it's maybe to shock teams. At the first round,
it's just a big, waiting game, the gamble, like, who's got the faster car, kind of thing. It's very playground of all the F1 teams, but we love that.
Absolutely. The last few seasons, Ferrari have seemed to sort of turn up trying to get the fastest lap at testing. They've turned up and just put the hammer down.
And they've done it.
And then even last season, they turned up at testing, set the fastest lap, and then the wheels fell off their championship race before they even got going. So Mercedes, it's just something that they do. I think you can't write them off. They're always going to be a challenger, even if they don't come and deliver massive pace at pre-season testing. I don't know how you feel about that.
It's I'm not sure. I've got mixed feelings about it. Testing at Barcelona at that time of the year, before then going to Australia at that time of the year, and given the climates, it is very different. The characteristics of the car, even if you don't do any changes to the car can feel the car can feel quite different when you get to Australia after leaving Catalonia. The humidity is different, the temperature is different, the surface in Australia is different, and that is enough to change the complete balance of the car, even though the car has been set up from Barcelona and flown over. So that's one thing to go off of. And they're two very, very different tracks. Barcelona is very flowing and it's very aero dependent, and likewise Albert Park is as well, but it's a more technical circuit. Whereas Barcelona is very white. It's quite the white knuckle ride. So
Albert Park's a street circuit, isn't it?
It's a street circuit, yeah.
And not a lot of people might know that, but it is.
It is actually a street circuit.
And
yeah.
They do race through a car park, so it really does have to rubber in, doesn't it? It's not like another track where they turn up and it's
just already rubbered in.
So.
Yeah.
Right, reliability. That's very important, isn't it?
Yep.
If your car won't last to the end of the race, there is no chance that you're going to be winning any points at all. So teams want their cars to be reliable. But Barcelona is the first chance that the teams get to run their cars, really, apart from they're allowed a few hours of filming days, aren't they, leading up to that. But the first time that they can actually get the cars on track, get some really quick lap time set and see,
and then let's do some long runs, some high fuel, some high fuel loading, medium or hard compound tires, and let's do long runs.
Specifically thinking back to 2015, I love going back to 2015.
2015
it's when I was
season,
so interested. I was so interested in everything because I just didn't know anything at all about F1.
And there's so much to know.
And I just immersed myself into everything, and I was quite excited about McLaren Honda because I'd read, and I originally got into F1 because I was interested in the history. I'd seen the film Senna. I'd read a lot about Ayrton Senna and the McLaren Honda, and I thought, oh, this massive return of Honda to McLaren, it's going to be a match made in heaven. Yeah. And then
it just went completely downhill.
It was dreadful, wasn't it? I've got the stats here. Mercedes, the dominant team at the time, still the dominant team, completed, and this was back in 2015, they had 12 days of testing. So that's halved in 5 years. Mercedes managed in 12 days of testing 6,121 kilometres.
And how much did McLaren get?
1,751.
That is significantly lower, and considering we're half the amount of time now. I mean, they're no longer running Honda engines at McLaren, but still.
And you've got to remember as well that Honda power was just in the McLaren. Mm-hmm. The Mercedes power unit was getting mileage.
Across
getting mileage from Mercedes, Force India, Williams. That was the three, wasn't it?
That was the three, yeah.
Yeah. And no, I was going to say Manor, but that was 2016.
Yeah, that was 2016.
Anyway, so yeah, I mean, you've got to run. You've got to get the mileage up to get the data on the cars, to effectively know what to do next. So, validating. Now, this was a new one. I'm going to have to read this. Teams check that the simulations and calculations for downforce and aerodynamics are matched by reality. Mm-hmm. Now that means that what the teams do is they run computer simulations. They make these models of their cars and run them through computer simulations. And this is kind of what happened to Williams last year. They designed their car on a computer, put it through all of these simulations.
The computer spat out a result, and
the computer says this. The racetrack said, nope,
we're not having it that way.
Nope.
You're having it our way.
Yeah. So what they managed to do was produce a car that they thought was going to behave one way,
and it behaved
like a dog. So we don't want that.
No, we don't want that.
We don't want that.
It is difficult, the battle between simulation and reality. I think that they also only have a limited amount of resources involving simulated testing. They've only got X amount of wind tunnel hours and X amount of funding that they can spend on aero development and stuff like that. So it is tough, especially if you're on the back foot. But there is a simulation model, and this is going into from what I remember from my engineering days, because I did some CFD at university, and there's things called boundary conditions. So if you don't set your boundary conditions correctly in the simulation, that wing will behave incredibly well in that environment. But then you change the environment, and the wing behaves completely differently, even in the simulation. So the simulations can get quite tough for the number crunchers and the data analysts to then make that, to turn that into reality. So it's always a good correlation with validating to turn that simulation into what the car is actually going to feel like.
I like watching this happen. You see it on track. You see some interesting contraptions put all around the cars, and they're basically effectively like the pitot tubes on an aeroplane. Measuring airflow to see if it works, and you get that lovely fluorescent airflow paint as well that they just splash on the cars. Pretty, I love testing. As boring as it can be to watch, it's not a spectator sport, but it's more enjoyable to read the headlines that come from it, mostly because they're utter rubbish. You can't really trust testing.
No, you can't.
I don't know how accurate it is, but the last 3 seasons, definitely Ferrari have been the fastest, haven't they? Set the fastest lap time, and Mercedes have won every championship. So
their swings are roundabouts.
It's not what it seems. Testing.
Another point from testing and validation. Now, this is another McLaren, not quote, but from Alonso's last season at McLaren. The reason why, from an aerodynamics point of view, that car was also such a dog to drive was their wheelbase was all wrong. They were getting wake coming off the wheels, the front wheels, that was disrupting the airflow going over the side pods and the barge boards. So it wasn't even wing elements causing a problem. It was the wheels, the things that keep the car on the ground. So their entire layout of their aero package may have worked, but their clearances between their wheels and other body panels and stuff like that, it just didn't work. And you would think that that's a very rudimentary, school day thing to get right, but they clearly missed it. So there's a lot of testing. I mean, they're all scratching their heads like, how much more can we get? This is a 100th of a second here. It's big gains, although it looks really, really tiny to us, and that's amazing in F1.
Yeah, it's a fantastic sport. It's so precise, isn't it?
It is very precise.
And that's what I love about it.
Predictions, Phil.
For testing.
Predictions and hopes. Should we do that?
You want my hope?
I want your hope. I want your hope first.
My hope is that Nicholas Latifi sets the fastest time of testing. It's never going to happen.
It's never going to happen.
And that's why I hope it happens, because it would just be so absurd.
It would be so absurd.
My prediction is that Sebastian Vettel will get the fastest time in the Ferrari.
This is over all 6 days or on the first day? I don't want to get too technical for predictions and hopes. But
let's just go the whole thing.
The whole
thing. I think Vettel is going to try and...
He'll try and get some...
Put a marker down and get it across to Charles Leclerc that he's here to do business. And I think he'll just try for the quickest time. I think Mercedes, we're not going to see anything special. We're just going to see them drive around in circles.
Bang in a quick lap-ish, slot in just behind one Ferrari and ahead of the other one, and then say, that's me for Albert Park.
I'd like to see Red Bull do some good times.
It's possible. First time Albon driving a Red Bull at Barcelona.
Yeah, we know what happened last time with Albon at Barcelona.
Yep.
Hopefully it's not a repeat.
No.
But oh well.
The kid is special. That kid is something.
I like him. Right.
What about the midfield? A lot of claims by all the teams.
And this is really annoying, but I'd love to see Renault make a car that will match McLaren so that there can actually be this battle for the best of the rest, because I don't think there was last season.
No, there wasn't, and it's a shame since they're both running the same engine.
Definitely,
you've got in McLaren is the big kid, but in Renault's eyes, you've got the little kid wearing your shoes outrunning you in a foot race. That's just like, who does that?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It would be like Williams outgunning Mercedes with a Mercedes.
With a Mercedes engine.
Just,
I'd love to see that.
I would love to see that. Come on, Nicholas.
You're putting a lot of pressure on.
What do you think?
Poor Nicholas. For me, I think Ferrari will do it again, and I think Ferrari will state their claim from the first day of testing. They will put down a lap that's just like bonkers ahead of everyone else, and then they may just keep inching it slightly quicker over the rest of the 6 days. But I think from the get-go, Ferrari will be on it. Yes, I expect some sandbagging at Mercedes. But that I'm curious to see what Alfa Romeo do and what McLaren do, just purely and simply because of how busy the bodywork and the aero elements look. That's my hope. My hope is that McLaren can sneak in a good one. Alfa Romeo can sneak in a good one. I almost said Alfa Tauri there. We can't even abbreviate them this year.
I know, they can't just go Alpha. Who are you talking about?
Which one?
I've just thought of something that we might as well chuck on the end of here. We're nearly finished talking about Formula One. Alfa Romeo, Kimi Raikkonen, and Antonio Giovinazzi. Now, last season was a season of two halves, I think, for Alfa Romeo. They had Kimi coming in, experience,
doing his job, giving the team
just getting the grinding out results, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And then I don't know what happened, but from mid-season, Giovinazzi seemed to click with that car, and he just started.
It was from Monza, wasn't it? Just after mid-season.
Yeah, because he crashed out in the last lap, didn't he, at Belgium?
Yeah, which is unfortunate.
And apparently that was close to him being gone. He was very close to being kicked out of that team. And he's managed to turn his season around and actually start to outperform Kimi Raikkonen. Is he going to be able to do that from the start, do you think?
I'm not sure. I think from the start, experience always plays out, especially in a new car. Kimi's been in so many teams. He's driven so many eras of F1 cars as well. You can give him a car that he's never driven, don't even know what it's going to perform like, and he can do bits with it because he's Kimi Raikkonen. He's
set to overtake Barrichello this season as the most
F1 start.
Most highest, that's awful. The highest number of F1 Grand Prix contested.
That is quite an achievement.
Yeah, definitely. Considering he had a couple of years out, didn't he?
Yeah,
rallying.
Doing some rallying. He wasn't bad at rallying. He did some NASCAR as well. He's done
well travelled.
But yeah, well versed. But yeah, that will be an interesting battle to watch.
I think us moving on then, we've just talked about Kimi Raikkonen and his dabbling with rallying.
Yep.
Should we talk about some rallying?
Of course we can talk about some rallying, Phil, without a doubt. But I think that will have to wait until episode 3. So ladies and gentlemen, you don't want to miss it. Episode 3, we're going to cover some rallying, particularly WRC. We're going to get through all of the driver changes for 2020 season. Quite the silly season, actually. And then we're going to get stuck right in at the business end with some predictions, some interesting things and some setups and stuff like that. And then we do a recap of Rally Monte Carlo and Rally Sweden. And what does that mean for the championship going forward? So, Track Limits, the podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Episode 3 out soon.